The silver observation pod hummed quietly on the dark side of Earth's moon. Inside, Dr. Zilthrax adjusted his many-lensed viewing apparatus. His blue scales shimmered under the soft lights of his laboratory as his four-fingered hands moved across the control panel with practiced ease. Recording day 47 of Earth observation. He spoke into his data recorder. The humans continue to fascinate me. Dr. Zilthrax was the leading xenobiologist from the Galactic Science Academy. For nearly 50 years, he had studied life forms across 17 star systems. None had captured his interest like the inhabitants of the small blue planet that the locals called Earth. The Galactic Council had largely ignored this solar system. It sat in an unremarkable spiral arm, and its dominant species had barely managed space travel to their own moon. But something about these humans had caught Dr. Zilthrax's attention when he reviewed the standard survey data. His thin lips curved into what passed for a smile among his species. "Most interesting," he muttered as he zoomed in on a particular location in the northwestern region of the landmass the humans called North America. Through his advanced viewing technology, he could see a human male walking through a forest. The human wore a green uniform and carried a small pack on his back. His scanning equipment identified the human as approximately 35 Earth years old, 6 feet tall, and in excellent physical condition. Subject displays typical human male characteristics, Dr. Zilthrax noted. Continuing observation of John Carter, park ranger at what they call Yellowstone National Park. His daily routines provide excellent baseline data for normal human activities. Miles below on Earth, John Carter hiked along a familiar trail. The morning sun filtered through the pine trees, and birds sang overhead. He took a deep breath of the fresh mountain air and smiled. After 8 years in the Marines and 2 tours overseas, the peace of the forest was exactly what he needed. His radio crackled. "John, you there?" "Over." He unclipped the radio from his belt. "Morning, Lisa. I'm here. What's up?" "Over." "Just checking your location. I'm heading to the northern ridge to check on that wolf pack. Thought you might want to join me." "Over." "Sounds good. I'm near Elk Creek. I can meet you at Junction Point in about an hour." "Over." "Perfect. See you then." Over and out. John smiled as he put away his radio. Lisa Reeves had started as the park's wildlife biologist just 6 months ago, but they had quickly become good friends. Her passion for the wolves she studied reminded him of why he'd become a ranger in the first place, to protect this small piece of wilderness. Back on the moon, Dr. Zilthrax watched this exchange with great interest. His translation software had decoded the human language weeks ago. He made a note about human social bonding behaviors. Fascinating how they form cooperative relationships even outside of mating pairs, he noted. Subject, Lisa Reeves, appears to be another valuable observation point for human behaviors. The alien zoologist switched his viewing array to locate this second human. He found her preparing equipment in a small building. His scanner identified her as female, 31 Earth years old, with physical measurements typical for human females. Dr. Zilthrax had chosen Yellowstone for his initial detailed observations because it offered a controlled environment where he could observe humans interacting with their planet's wildlife. The humans had designated this area for preservation, which he found to be an intriguing concept. Most species only develop conservation instincts after nearly destroying their ecosystems, he noted. Humans display unusual foresight in this regard, despite their primitive technology. He watched as Lisa packed scientific instruments into her vehicle. His own instruments were far more advanced, capable of reading human vital signs from orbit and collecting biological data without detection. The humans had no idea they were being observed. "Today I will continue monitoring baseline physical capabilities," Dr. Zilthrax said. "According to my calculations, humans should be relatively weak compared to similar life forms on other planets, with comparable gravity. Their muscle mass and bone density suggest limited strength." He paused, his head tilting in the gesture his species used to indicate curiosity. "And yet, preliminary observations suggest anomalies worth investigating." The alien scientist settled in for another day of careful observation, unaware that he was about to witness something that would challenge everything the galactic community thought they knew about the unremarkable species called humans. John reached junction point right on time. Lisa was already there, checking the batteries on her tracking equipment. She smiled and waved as he approached. "Perfect timing," she said. "I got a signal from the alpha female's collar about 20 minutes ago. The pack should be near the northern creek." They set off together, walking at a steady pace through the forest. Lisa carried her tracking equipment and a small camera, while John kept an eye out for any signs of danger. Though Yellowstone was generally safe, they both knew to be careful around wild animals, especially wolf packs. Up on the moon, Dr. Zilthrax followed their progress with growing interest. He had placed several microscopic observation drones throughout the park area. These tiny floating devices, no larger than earth insects, gave him multiple viewing angles as the humans moved through the wilderness. "Standard movement speed for terrain type," he noted in his recorder. "Respiratory and cardiovascular functions normal for light exertion. Subject John Carter appears to be scanning surroundings in a pattern consistent with predator awareness. Interesting adaptation for a species no longer regularly preyed upon." After about 40 minutes of hiking, Lisa and John reached a small clearing near a creek. Lisa checked her equipment and pointed to a ridge about 100 yards away. "They should be just over that rise," she whispered. "Let's move slowly and stay downwind." They carefully made their way up the gentle slope. At the top, they crouched behind some rocks and looked down into a small valley. There, near a fallen tree, was the wolf pack Lisa had been studying for months. 6 adult wolves and 3 cubs were resting in the morning sun. "There they are," Lisa said quietly, her face lighting up with excitement. "Looks like all 9 of them. The cubs are getting big." She carefully set up her camera and began taking notes on the wolves' behavior. John kept watch, making sure they weren't disturbing the animals. Dr. Zilthrax recorded everything with fascination. "The humans display remarkable patience. They observe the canid pack without interference. Subject Lisa Reeves shows elevated dopamine levels consistent with what humans call happiness when viewing these wild animals. Most curious." As Lisa was documenting the wolves' behavior, a loud crack suddenly echoed through the valley. Both humans froze. One of the large pine trees near the edge of the clearing, weakened by disease and recent storms, was splitting at its base. The wolves instantly became alert. The adults gathered the cubs and began to move away from the sound. But one cub, smaller than the others, became confused and ran in the wrong direction, directly toward where the tree was beginning to fall. Without hesitation, John jumped up and sprinted down the hill toward the wolf cub. Lisa called after him, but he was already racing across the clearing. Dr. Zilthrax's monitoring equipment went wild. Subject John Carter's vital signs showing sudden extreme change. Heart rate increased by 121%. Adrenaline surge detected. Muscle tension at incredible levels. The massive pine tree, over 80 feet tall and weighing several tons, crashed down just as John reached the wolf cub. In what should have been a physically impossible move, he scooped up the frightened animal with one hand while bracing the falling tree trunk with his shoulder and other arm. The alien scientist could not believe what his instruments were showing. John was temporarily supporting over 2,000 pounds of weight, far more than a human should be capable of handling. "Impossible," Dr. Zilthrax whispered, his scales changing color in shock. "According to all calculations of human muscle, density, and skeletal structure, this should not be possible." John held the weight just long enough to toss the wolf cub toward safety. The little animal scampered away toward its pack as John rolled aside, letting the tree crash the rest of the way to the ground. He lay there for a moment, breathing hard, as Lisa ran to him. "Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen." John sat up slowly, wincing and rubbing his shoulder. "Probably both," he said with a small smile. "Don't worry, nothing's broken. I just couldn't let the little guy get crushed." Lisa shook her head in amazement. "How did you even hold that up? That tree must weigh tons." "I don't know," John admitted. "Adrenaline, I guess." On the moon, Dr. Zilthrax was frantically reviewing the data, checking and rechecking his calculations. "This changes everything," he said to himself. "The humans possess strength far beyond what should be physically possible. I must report this to the Academy immediately." The Great Hall of the Galactic Science Academy buzzed with voices. Hundreds of scientists from across the galaxy had gathered for Dr. Zilthrax's presentation. The curved walls of the chamber displayed moving images of stars and planets, while the gathered aliens sat in tiered seating around a central platform. Dr. Zilthrax stood nervously at the center, his blue scales slightly pale with anxiety. This was the most important presentation of his career. Behind him, a large screen showed images of Earth and its humans. "Distinguished colleagues," he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language. "For the past 3 months, I have been observing the species known as humans on the planet they call Earth. My findings challenge everything we thought we knew about this species." In the front row, Professor Quindar shifted his massive frame. The senior xenobiologist was widely respected throughout the galaxy. His 8 eyes blinked in sequence, showing his skepticism. "I have recorded multiple instances of humans displaying physical strength that should be impossible, given their muscle mass and the gravity of their planet," Dr. Zilthrax continued. He activated a holographic display showing John lifting the fallen tree. This human temporarily supported over 1,000 kilograms of weight, despite having a physical structure that should limit him to less than a third of that. Murmurs spread through the audience. Professor Quindar raised one of his 4 arms. "Dr. Zilthrax," he said, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "Your reputation has always been one of careful science. Yet you come before us with claims that defy basic physics. Perhaps your measuring equipment was faulty?" "I considered that possibility," Zilthrax replied. "I recalibrated all instruments and observed 17 similar instances across different human populations. The effect is consistent." "What explanation do you propose?" asked another scientist from the back of the hall. Dr. Zilthrax clicked, his claws together, a gesture of uncertainty among his people. "I have a theory, but it requires more research. It appears humans have evolved a unique chemical response to danger. Their bodies produce compounds that temporarily enhance their physical capabilities beyond normal limitations." "Preposterous," Professor Quindar declared. "No species we have encountered in 12,000 years of galactic exploration has such an ability. The energy requirements alone would make it impossible. Yet I have recorded it happening repeatedly," Dr. Zilthrax insisted. "I request approval to continue my research and gather more concrete evidence." The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some scientists were intrigued, while others openly mocked the idea. Professor Quindar raised all 4 arms for silence. "Dr. Zilthrax," he said firmly, "extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Your current data is interesting but far from conclusive. If humans truly possess this remarkable ability, you must provide more substantial proof before the Academy can accept such a revolutionary claim." "I understand," Dr. Zilthrax replied. "I request permission to expand my observation network and gather more data." Professor Quindar considered this. "Very well. You may continue your research, but I will be monitoring your methods closely. If these humans are indeed as remarkable as you claim, it could change their classification status within the galactic database." Back on Earth, John and Lisa continued their work in Yellowstone, unaware of the scientific debate they had sparked among the stars. A week had passed since the falling tree incident. John's shoulder was still sore, but otherwise he had recovered completely. Lisa had noticed something strange with her equipment lately. Several of her sensors had picked up unusual readings, and sometimes her radio would emit strange static. "Hey, John," she called as they met at the ranger station that morning. "Have you had any problems with your equipment?" John frowned. "Now that you mention it, my GPS has been acting up. Yesterday it showed me in the wrong location by about half a mile." "Same here," Lisa said. "And look at this." She showed him her tablet with the wildlife tracking data. "These readings make no sense. It's like something is interfering with our signals." John's expression grew serious. His military training had included electronic warfare. "Could be nothing," he said. but it might be worth checking out. Want to sweep the area for unusual signals? You think someone's spying on the wolves? Lisa asked with a small laugh. Probably just equipment failure, John replied with a shrug. But my old sergeant used to say, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't watching you. In his lunar observation post, Dr. Zilthrax reviewed the conversation with concern. The humans were noticing the effects of his observation equipment. He would need to recalibrate his drones to be even less detectable if he wanted to continue his research without interfering with his subjects. Dark clouds gathered over Yellowstone as John and Lisa hiked up the steep mountain trail. They had been tracking the wolf pack for 3 hours, following signals from the alpha female's collar. The weather report had predicted clear skies, but mountain weather was always unpredictable. Looks like rain, John said, glancing at the darkening sky. Maybe we should head back. Lisa checked her tracking device. The pack is just over this ridge. Let's get a quick visual confirmation, then we can turn back. They continued climbing. The path grew narrower as they approached a section that hugged the mountainside. Below them was a steep drop of several hundred feet. From his lunar observation post, Dr. Zilthrax watched with growing concern. His weather monitoring systems were detecting instability in the rock face. Recent rain had weakened the soil structure. The humans are entering a dangerous area, he noted in his log. Sensors indicate a 78% probability of landslide in the next 30 minutes. He had deployed extra drones to this area, hoping to record more instances of human physical responses to danger. Now he worried his research might put the subjects at risk. John and Lisa reached the ridge and spotted the wolf pack in the valley below. Lisa quickly took notes and photos while John kept watch. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Got what we need, Lisa said. Let's head back before... A loud cracking sound interrupted her. The ground beneath them shuddered. Small rocks and dirt began sliding down the mountainside. Landslide, John shouted. Move! They turned to retreat, but it was too late. With a deafening roar, the section of trail behind them collapsed. The ground under their feet began to give way. John grabbed Lisa's arm and pulled her toward a small ledge with exposed tree roots. They leapt for it just as the path disappeared beneath them. They landed hard on the narrow ledge. Above them, rocks and earth continued to slide down the mountain. One large boulder crashed onto their ledge, breaking off half of it. Hold on, John yelled over the noise of the landslide. The ledge cracked further. Lisa screamed as she began to slip. John lunged and caught her wrist with one hand while grabbing onto a thick tree root with his other. Now he hung suspended, one arm supporting his own weight plus Lisa's, while rocks and debris rained down around them. Dr. Zilthrax's instruments went wild again, subjects showing same physiological response, heart rate extreme, adrenaline levels spiking, muscle tension exceeding all previous measurements. For nearly 2 minutes, John held this position. According to Dr. Zilthrax's calculations, he was supporting over 3 times the weight a human should be able to hold with one arm. Get your foot on that rock, John said through gritted teeth, nodding toward a small outcropping. Lisa swung her leg and found the foothold. I got it. Now climb up using my arm, he instructed. She did as he said, scaling his arm and body until she could reach the same tree root he held. Once she had a secure grip, John pulled himself up as well. They clung to the mountainside, breathing hard as the last of the landslide rumbled below them. That was close, Lisa gasped. We're not safe yet, John said. We need to find a way back to solid ground. In his excitement at recording another example of extraordinary human strength, Dr. Zilthrax had moved one of his drones too close. Now as the dust settled, the small metallic orb hovered just 20 feet away from the humans, its cloaking system damaged by debris from the landslide. John was the first to spot it. Lisa, look. What is that? The drone wobbled in the air, its damaged system struggling to maintain position. Light glinted off its metal surface. That's no bird or insect, Lisa said, staring in amazement. Dr. Zilthrax frantically tried to recall the damaged drone. System compromised. Observation protocols breached. But it was too late. As the humans watched, the drone's systems failed completely. It dropped from the air and landed on a rock shelf just a few feet from them. "Can you reach it?" Lisa asked. John stretched out his hand and managed to grab the strange object. It was about the size of a tennis ball, made of an unfamiliar metal, with tiny lenses and antennae. "This is military tech," John said, examining it closely. Or what?" Lisa asked. John looked at her with wide eyes. "Or it's not from Earth at all." Dr. Zilthrax had not slept in 3 Earth days. His lab on the moon was scattered with data tablets, holographic displays, and sample containers. The loss of his drone was a disaster, but it had also pushed him to work harder. He had to find answers before the humans discovered who was watching them. "Computer, run simulation 47B again," he said, his voice hoarse from overuse. A hologram appeared in the center of the lab. It showed a detailed model of human muscle tissue and bone structure. As the simulation ran, the model shifted, showing how human muscles behaved under normal conditions versus extreme stress. "Fascinating," Dr. Zilthrax whispered. "Computer, enhance cellular view." The hologram zoomed in to show individual cells. The alien scientist watched as the simulation demonstrated how specific human hormones affected muscle fibers. "There it is," he exclaimed. "The chemical cascade effect is unique to humans. When their danger response activates, it doesn't just increase heart rate and blood flow like in most species. It temporarily alters the very structure of their muscle fibers." He excitedly recorded his findings. "Humans have evolved a completely unique emergency response system. In moments of extreme stress, their bodies produce a complex cocktail of chemicals that allows them to temporarily exceed their normal physical limitations by an astonishing degree." Meanwhile, on Earth, John and Lisa had made it safely back to the ranger station. After a difficult climb and a long hike, they were exhausted but unharmed. The strange drone sat on a table between them. "So what do we do with it?" Lisa asked, poking the metal sphere cautiously. John shook his head. "I'm not sure. If it's some kind of advanced surveillance tech, we should report it, but—" He hesitated. "But what?" "But I've never seen anything like this. The materials, the design, and it doesn't look like anything I encountered in the military." Lisa picked up the device and examined its lenses. "These look like cameras, but they're incredibly small and advanced." "We need an expert," John decided. "Someone who knows technology but won't immediately report this to the authorities. At least not until we understand what we're dealing with." Lisa thought for a moment. "What about Sam Weiss? He used to work for NASA before he started teaching at the community college. If anyone can figure out what this is, it's him." "Good idea," John agreed. "Let's go see him tomorrow." At the Galactic Science Academy, Professor Quindar reviewed Dr. Zilthrax's latest data transmission with growing interest. His many eyes blinked rapidly as he read through the research notes. "Computer, verify these findings," he ordered. The Academy's powerful computers processed the information. Verification complete. Dr. Zilthrax's data appears consistent and his methodology sound. Human physiological response falls outside all previously recorded parameters for humanoid species. Professor Quindar leaned back in his specially designed chair. After decades as the leading authority on alien biology, he did not enjoy being proven wrong. Yet the evidence was becoming hard to ignore. "Send a message to Dr. Zilthrax," he said finally. "Inform him that the Academy is upgrading the priority status of his research. Also," he paused, "inform him of the lost drone situation. If humans have discovered our observation technology, the Galactic Council must be notified immediately." The next morning, John and Lisa drove to the small community college where Sam Weiss taught engineering and astronomy. They found him in his cluttered office, surrounded by books, old computer parts, and posters of space. Sam was in his late 50s with wild gray hair and thick glasses. His eyes lit up when John explained why they had come. "You found something strange and thought of me?" "I'm flattered," he said with a grin. "Let's see what you've got." Lisa carefully placed the drone on Sam's desk. The professor's smile faded as he examined it. "Where did you find this?" he asked. his voice suddenly serious. In the park, during a landslide, John explained. It was hovering in the air before it malfunctioned and fell. Sam picked up a magnifying glass and studied the device closely. The metallurgy is unlike anything I've ever seen, and these components, he looked up at them, his face pale. This isn't military tech, it's not even from this planet. Are you saying it's alien? Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam nodded slowly. I've spent my career studying space technology. This is far beyond anything humans have created. He carefully turned the device over. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been recording you. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that stretched high up the walls. At the center was a circular platform where Dr. Zilthrax now stood, feeling very small. Professor Quindar floated beside him on a gravity disk. The council recognizes Dr. Zilthrax and Professor Quindar, announced the council leader, a tall, crystalline being whose voice echoed through the chamber. You may present your findings. Professor Quindar spoke first. Honored representatives, we come before you with an urgent matter. One of our observation drones has been discovered by humans on planet Earth. This constitutes a potential breach of the non-interference protocol. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The non-interference protocol was one of the Galactic Council's most important rules. It stated that primitive species should not be contacted until they developed faster than light travel. How did this happen? Asked a council member. A drone malfunctioned during a natural disaster, Dr. Zilthrax explained. The drone's cloaking system failed while observing humans in a dangerous situation. This is troubling, said the council leader. But perhaps more interesting is why you were studying humans so closely in the first place. Your research proposal mentioned unusual physical capabilities? Dr. Zilthrax activated a holographic display. Yes, honored leader. My research has confirmed that humans possess a unique physiological response to danger. When threatened, their bodies undergo a chemical transformation that temporarily grants them strength, speed, and endurance far beyond their normal capabilities. He showed recordings of John holding up the tree and supporting Lisa during the landslide. These feats should be physically impossible given human muscle mass and bone structure, yet they occur regularly in crisis situations. Professor Quindar, once skeptical, now supported the findings. The evidence is conclusive. This hysterical strength, as humans call it, is unlike anything we've seen in any other species. It appears to be an evolutionary adaptation that helped them survive as prey animals before they developed tools and weapons. The council members discussed this among themselves. Finally, the council leader spoke again. This changes the classification status of humans. They may be more valuable to the galactic community than previously thought. However, we still have the immediate problem of the discovered drone. Back on Earth, Sam Weiss had spent days analyzing the alien drone. Using specialized tools in his college lab, he had managed to access some of its stored data. I can't read most of it, he told John and Lisa as they gathered in his office. The language is completely alien, but some of the visual data is accessible. He connected the drone to his computer and turned on a large monitor. The screen showed images from Yellowstone Park, John and Lisa tracking wolves, John lifting the fallen tree, their struggle during the landslide. It's been watching us, Lisa said, her voice shaking. But why? Look at this, Sam said, pointing to some data scrolling beside the images. These look like biological readings: heart rate, body temperature, muscle tension. It was studying you, John, especially during moments of physical stress. John stared at the footage of himself holding up the tree. Why would aliens be interested in that? Maybe they find it unusual, Sam suggested. Think about it. What you did with that tree isn't normal. Most humans couldn't do that. Lisa nodded slowly. The adrenaline response. It lets people perform incredible feats in emergencies. Maybe that's what they're studying. Sam continued working on the drone. I think I found something else. These coordinates keep appearing in the data stream. He pulled up a map on another screen. It's pointing To a location on the moon. The moon? John said in disbelief. You're saying there's an alien base on our moon? That's exactly what I'm saying, Sam replied. And based on these transmission patterns, it's still active. The three humans looked at each other as the reality of their situation sank in. We need to contact them, Lisa said finally. Contact. Aliens? John asked. How? And are you sure that's a good idea? They're already watching us, Lisa pointed out. And they haven't hurt anyone. I think they're just scientists like me. They're curious. Sam nodded thoughtfully. I might be able to modify the college radio telescope to send a focused signal to these moon coordinates. It won't be a normal radio message. It would need to match the transmission pattern from the drone. What would we say? John asked. Lisa smiled. How about we found your drone? Would you like it back? A small clearing in Yellowstone National Park had been transformed. Sam's old pickup truck was filled with electronic equipment. Long cables connected to a portable satellite dish aimed at the night sky. John, Lisa, and Sam worked quickly, setting up the makeshift communication system. Are you sure this will work? John asked, connecting power cables to a portable generator. Sam adjusted the satellite dish slightly. Not at all, he admitted with a nervous laugh. But the math checks out. If there really is an alien base at these coordinates on the moon, our signal should reach it. Lisa checked her watch. It's almost midnight. The moon is in the perfect position now. They had been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks. After discovering the alien observation post's location, Sam had modified his equipment to send a signal that would match the drone's transmission pattern. They had chosen a remote location in the park for privacy. Ready? Sam asked, his finger hovering over a keyboard. John and Lisa nodded. Here goes nothing, Sam said, pressing the key. The equipment hummed to life. The satellite dish vibrated slightly as it transmitted their message into space. On the moon, Dr. Zilthrax was preparing to pack up his laboratory. The Galactic Council had ordered him to dismantle his observation post due to the drone breach. Professor Quindar had arrived to supervise the process. Ashamed to end such fascinating research, Professor Quindar said, examining a hologram of human DNA. Your work on human strength capabilities has changed our understanding of evolutionary adaptation. Dr. Zilthrax carefully stored tissue samples in preservation units. I still have much to learn about them. They are truly remarkable creatures. Suddenly, an alert sounded. Both aliens turned toward the communications console. Incoming transmission, the computer announced. Origin, Earth surface. Impossible, Professor Quindar whispered. Humans don't have the technology to detect this facility, let alone communicate with it. Dr. Zilthrax rushed to the console. The signal matches our drone's transmission pattern. They must have analyzed the lost drone. The message appeared on the screen, translated by the computer. We found your drone. Would you like it back? Coordinates for meeting attached. The two aliens stared at each other in shock. They are even more resourceful than we thought, Professor Quindar said finally. The council must be informed immediately. Back on Earth, the three humans waited anxiously. Their equipment showed the signal had been sent successfully, but there was no way to know if it had been received. Now what? Lisa asked after several minutes of silence. Now we wait, Sam replied. If they got our message and want to respond, they will. If not, he shrugged. Suddenly, their equipment crackled with static. The satellite dish moved on its own, realigning slightly. Something's happening, Sam exclaimed, rushing to his laptop. The screen filled with strange symbols, then shifted to English text. Message received. Council discussing response, maintain position. The three humans looked at each other in amazement. They understood us, Lisa whispered, and they responded in English. They've been studying us for a while, John pointed out. They probably know all our languages. For 3 hours they waited in the clearing, occasionally receiving brief messages about ongoing discussions. Finally, a longer message appeared. Preliminary contact approved by Galactic Council due to special circumstances. Small delegation will arrive at your coordinates in 48 Earth hours. Limit knowledge of this meeting to your 3 individuals only. Prepare for scientific exchange regarding human physiological capabilities. Sam read the message aloud, his voice trembling with excitement. They're coming here. Actual aliens are coming to meet us. Why us? John wondered. Out of all the people on Earth, why choose 3 random people in a national park? Not random, Lisa said thoughtfully. They've been watching you specifically, John. Remember all those strength measurements? Something about you interests them. 2 days later, they returned to the same clearing. They had told no one about the upcoming meeting, as instructed. The Gao. Night was clear, with a full moon shining brightly overhead. Anything on the scanner, Sam? John asked tensely. Sam checked his equipment. Nothing yet, but wait. He pointed to his screen. Something's entering Earth's atmosphere. It's small, about the size of a car, and it's headed straight for us. They looked up to see a faint light in the sky growing larger. The light descended, slowly, emitting no sound. As it approached, they could make out a sleek silver craft shaped like a teardrop. The alien ship landed gently in the clearing. A seam appeared in its smooth surface, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, and in that light stood 2 figures, a smaller blue-scaled alien and a larger one with multiple arms and eyes. Dr. Zilthrax and Professor Quindar had arrived on Earth. The sun rose over a small field near the edge of Yellowstone National Park. Strange equipment was set up in a circle, devices with blinking lights and hovering sensors unlike anything made on Earth. In the center of this circle stood John, shirtless, with small sensors attached to his chest, arms, and forehead. Are you ready? Dr. Zilthrax asked, his words translated by a small device on his belt. John nodded. I still don't understand exactly what you want me to do. Professor Quindar stepped forward. The large alien's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. We wish to measure your strength under controlled conditions. The test will be difficult but not dangerous. It had been 3 days since the aliens had landed. After initial introductions and explanations, Dr. Zilthrax had shared his research with the 3 humans. He explained how he had discovered that humans possessed extraordinary strength capabilities that defied conventional understanding. Now, with permission from the Galactic Council, he wanted to document these abilities through proper scientific testing. Begin Test 1, Dr. Zilthrax announced. A platform rose from the ground in front of John. On it was a metal bar connected to measurement devices. Please lift this and hold it as long as you can, Professor Quindar instructed. John gripped the bar and lifted. It was heavy but manageable. The reading on the alien device showed 150 kilograms. Good, Dr. Zilthrax noted. This establishes your baseline strength. Now for Test 2. The weight increased to 300 kilograms. John struggled, but managed to lift it briefly. That's about my limit, John said, breathing heavily. Now for the key test, Professor Quindar said. We will simulate an emergency situation. Lisa, who had been watching nervously, stepped forward. Is this safe? Completely, Dr. Zilthrax assured her. We will create only the perception of danger, not actual risk. Sam adjusted his glasses. Fascinating. They want to trigger your adrenaline response artificially. The aliens activated a holographic projector. Suddenly, Lisa appeared to be trapped under a fallen tree, crying for help. John knew it wasn't real, but the sight was so convincing that his heart raced. Lisa, he shouted instinctively. His body responded immediately. His pupils dilated, his breathing quickened, and the sensors on his body recorded a surge of hormones and electrical activity in his muscles. Now lift the weight again, Dr. Zilthrax instructed. John grabbed the bar, which now registered 500 kilograms, and lifted it with a roar of effort. The alien's instruments recorded everything as he held the impossible weight for nearly 20 seconds before setting it down. The hologram disappeared. John collapsed to his knees, exhausted, but unharmed. Remarkable, Professor Quindar exclaimed. The human lifted more than 3 times his established maximum capacity. It's the emergency response system I documented, Dr. Zilthrax explained to the amazed humans. Your bodies can temporarily override normal limitations when you perceive danger to yourselves or others you care about. The testing continued throughout the day. Each time John demonstrated strength far beyond what should have been possible. By sunset, even Professor Quindar was convinced. The evidence is irrefutable, the senior scientist admitted. Humans possess a unique adaptation unlike anything we've seen in 12,000 years of galactic exploration. That evening, as they sat around a campfire, Dr. Zilthrax shared what this meant for humanity's place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council has revised Earth's classification, he explained. Your species is now considered a protected scientific treasure. Your unique physiology may hold answers to questions we have been asking for centuries. What happens now? Lisa asked. We will return to the Galactic Academy with our findings, Professor Quindar said. A formal diplomatic mission will likely be arranged within the next 5 Earth years. Your world will be officially welcomed into the galactic community. Why wait 5 years? Sam asked. To give your leaders time to prepare your people for the knowledge that you are not alone in the universe, Dr. Zilthrax explained. It can be disruptive. John looked up at the stars, thinking about what this meant for humanity's future. I have a question, he said finally. You've studied many species across the galaxy. What makes humans so different? Dr. Zilthrax considered this carefully before answering. Most species evolved to fit their environment perfectly. Humans did something else. You evolved to overcome your environment. When faced with danger or challenges, you don't just adapt. You transform. In moments of greatest need, you become more than you are. That is why humans are unbelievably strong. The alien scientist looked up at the same stars. And that is why your future among those